Hey everyone, this is Marshall here with Teen Music Conference. We are here to help teen musicians hone their skills to become both better musicians, but also learn how to stay relevant and on top of an always changing music industry. Something that music schools and classes rarely, if ever, seem to touch on. Over the past few weeks, we have seen major changes to most industries, and the music industry is no different. We now have great group pages like Socially Distance Fest, where you can watch live performances from all over the world. Recording stars such as John Legend and Willie Nelson have invited you into their homes for intimate performances for millions of people. So today, while it may not be possible to jam with your friends or book studio time, it is still very possible to create music together. What you're about to watch is an edited down online workshop that I recently hosted, led by JB Bartlett, on how to go about starting to record remotely. JB is a mainstay in the Chicago music scene. He's the talent buyer for one of my favorite local venues, Moe's Tavern. He also is, or was, constantly performing all over the city, as well as running front of house for several bands, teaching, and staying busy doing whatever he can. Very few of us are fortunate enough to make enough income solely on performance. So if you're looking to make music your career, the more skills you have, the more work you have. JB recently released a recording of him and some friends performing together, the Fish song, Birds of a Feather. It gained a lot of attention quickly because of its really high quality recording. The song was all recorded and filmed in 4 different remote locations, but the way it was put together, it has a really concise, tight sound that sounds like they're all in the same room together. Here's JB explaining his process.
Cool, thanks Marshall, really appreciate it. Having to adapt and having to be flexible, that's nothing new in the music industry, and especially with the last, with the advent of things like streaming and whatnot, big sources of income are really hard to come by. So when you're a professional music person, you usually have to have a lot of different revenue streams anyway. So this is just, this event that we have going on is really kind of just a way, an opportunity to work on all this stuff. So that being said, I am just going to walk you guys through this one particular thing that we did. So I'm going to turn on my screen sharing. Sorry. All right. So this here is the final product of what we were working on. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of this and then walk you through how we went through to make it. So essentially, I know it was kind of hard to tell, but it's a really high quality recording. It's, nice video, and it was all done completely remotely. None of us had any contact physically during this whole thing. The first thing that I did in order to make this happen was I generated a scratch track for everybody. For those of you that have never used any recording program, by the way, essentially all of these vertical moving lines here are separate tracks, and you layer tracks on top of each other, and that's how you do what's called overdubbing. So I started out and I just have a guitar scratch track, bass scratch track, and I played all of these on my own first, and a vocal scratch track that I did, and it sounds terrible before we got the singer in there. So it's a total like thrown together sort of thing. It doesn't sound good at all, but basically the point of it is that everybody that gets this can play along with it. A couple of features that I have on this is down here, this track that says Classic Remix is actually a Q track. And so what this is it clicks 4 clicks before every section changes. And up here at the top, I have all the sections written out. So I have intro, verse 1, chorus 1, so on and so forth. And then it goes all the way through. So I'll just play you a little bit of what this sounds like. And it's probably not going to totally come all the way through, but you'll get the idea, I think. Could you guys hear that okay?
Mm-hmm.
I've got a click track going on, and I don't know how much you guys have talked about playing with a click track, but it's pretty useful for this sort of stuff. Being able to play with the metronome is key, and being able to nail all your stuff is really key when you're doing this kind of stuff too. So anyway, so I created this, and then what I did is I sent the whole project to the drummer of the band. His name's Goose. And it was good. It worked well for us because we all had the same program. This is called Logic. It's a DAW that's pretty common. And it worked really well because we were able to actually literally just send the whole project. So I sent this to him, and he got it. He was able to just open it up and see this sort of stuff. That's not necessarily what you have to do. You don't have to have the same digital audio workstation in order to collaborate with other people. You can also just send these individual tracks to people. You just have to make sure that they're all the same length, and also just kind of give them a rundown of what's going on. The main thing is that the communication has to be there. Everybody has to know where the intro is, where the verse is, and all that sort of stuff. So that's really huge. Whatever you can do to be super organized and communicate, that's going to be key when you're doing this sort of thing. So anyway, I sent all of this to Goose, who he recorded drums, and these are all of his drum tracks up here. And I usually work with a lot more mics on drum kits than he recorded with, but you know, when you're doing this sort of stuff, you just kind of have to work with whatever everybody has. But he did have some really nice gear. So he had a mic on his kick drum, a mic on his snare drum, a mic on his rack tom, a mic on his floor tom. He had 2 overhead mics and then 2 room mics, and they actually all sounded really good. So he recorded his drums, and then what subsequently happened after that is we all went through and recorded our parts. So after Goose was done recording his drum parts, he recorded them right into here, and then he sent that whole project over to Anthony, who was on bass. And then this was his bass track that he recorded down here. And then when he was all done, he sent that back over to me, and I recorded my guitar parts, which are right here. And then I sent this whole project over to our singer, Frank, who recorded his vocal parts, which are down here. I overdubbed backing vocals and stuff too. And then one thing is that while we were all doing this, we were simultaneously recording ourselves on whatever video equipment that we had. Goose has a really nice camera that he was using. I just used an iPhone to record myself. Frank, he had a pretty nice camera, and then Anthony just used whatever Android phone or whatever he has to do this. And just to give you an example, this was just Goose's video. So, he obviously had it on a tripod. He's standing over here somewhere, walking around. Need to speed it up a little bit. And it sounds horrendous. So that was a little bit of his video. Frank's video is here. I just find it funny that he's grooving along and you can't hear anything.
It's he.
But so everybody recorded their videos. They recorded the audio simultaneously recording the video. I then I then mixed the audio so that it sounded good, which is a whole other can of worms to get into. And then I brought it over to this video editing program that I use. It's called Adobe Premiere Pro. And I edited it. I edited it so that the audio was going along with the video, and then switched a bunch of angles over. I'm not really gonna, go through exactly how to do all that stuff, but that's the gist of it. And then after that, finished it up, uploaded it onto Facebook and YouTube and stuff, and got some really good feedback from it, which is awesome. But it was just like a really cool creative experience, really cool learning experience. And you can do this with any level of equipment that you have. So I know that a lot of you have GarageBand, which is, GarageBand is killer just on its own. And you can record onto that. If you don't have if you only have one mic, you can record a whole drum set on one mic. I've seen somebody do that. And it sounds, it doesn't sound amazing, but it sounds fine. And it's still a great way to get your stuff out there and keep working on whatever you're doing. You can, record vocals just straight into your computer. Again, not ideal, but it's totally doable. You can come up with so many different creative ways to do this sort of stuff. And you can use, whatever native program you have on your computer to edit videos. And you can just, make it happen. Like, the possibilities are totally endless. I've got a bunch more of these videos that are going to be coming out soon with a bunch of different new features and whatnot. And, yeah, it's totally doable, and I highly recommend everybody take some sort of stab at it just to keep playing and keep doing stuff during this whole thing, So that's how it happened.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks. So I challenge all of you guys to try to do something like that. And really, the goal of this was just to walk through it, to show everyone that it is possible. I guess my first question to you, JB, is each band should probably pick a person to start with, right?
Yeah, totally. That is a big thing. I'm like I take kind of the producer role. I'm like the main guy that headed everything up. So you definitely have to have somebody who's like your home base sort of person. And especially, it doesn't sound like you guys all have the same DAW, or digital audio workstation. So you're going to need one person that is taking all the tracks and is also sending out all the tracks in at the correct length, so that whoever is going to be recording on top of them can just use those tracks to record on top
of. Okay, so now let's just does anyone have questions? Yes, Michael.
So, sorry, when was that video or that song? When was that made?
Do you mean? I'm assuming you're talking about the production that we did. Yeah. So that we actually did that. We finished it probably 4 or 5 days ago. We started it maybe 3 or 4 days before that. So all in all, it's been about 8 days since we started it. We started it as a kind of response to what's been going on with the coronavirus. So it was after everybody was on lockdown and everything like that.
All right. Okay.
What audio format did you use to send it between people who didn't have the same DAW? Was it MP3 or WAV or?
I bounced everything as an MP3 format, which I know is not, it's not high quality, but when somebody's recording with it, it was more important to me to be able to send it easily than it was for them to hear the different. I mean, it's like the difference between WAV and MP3 is not really that noticeable. So it's not like it's going to impair anybody's ability to play along with it, you know? So, but they needed to send me a WAV file. And when I bounced everything, it was, you know, to have the finished product, it was, you know, high quality WAV and all that sort of stuff.
So did you use like Google Drive or Dropbox?
I use WeTransfer. Can I ask you guys a question then? Is this something that you are interested in? And then maybe we could just come up with like a plan for how you guys can go about it. Harry, do you have an interface?
I have GarageBand, but I just don't know how to get like the mics into my computer.
So that is what you would use an interface for.
Oh, that's what the interface.
Yeah. So an interface takes your analog signal, which would be coming from your microphone, and turns it into something that your computer can read. So you're going to want to get an interface somehow, you know, be it seeing if one of your friends has one that they can just leave on your porch in a sanitized plastic bag or something like that. And, you know, Sweetwater's still making deliveries if it's something you want to buy, which I would highly recommend spending a little bit of money here, spending a little bit of money there, and then all of a sudden you got a full studio in your basement. And if you've got even just a couple of mics, you can just set them up, point them at your drum kit, and then just go at it. And there are, if you want to get into it too, there's like a crap load of YouTube informational channels on how to mic stuff up so that it sounds good. But basically the start of it is just getting an interface, getting a couple mics, pointing them at the drums, and playing along with the track that you get.